Welcome back to another episode of Gumball Love. I'm Melissa Ledger, your host, and today we're going to do a little Q&A because I want to lighten things up a little bit. It's been very deep and very heavy, but we got to do what we got to do, right? This is hard work, this relationship and love stuff. So let me get to my microphone situated. You know that I don't edit. I'm very raw and very real. I want to keep it that way. Not that editing isn't great. It's really just a matter of trying to churn these things out quickly and not wasting a lot of time on outsourcing other things, just getting you the information. So here we go. The private Facebook group is so active. I love it because I don't actually post quotes and, it's not the place I post my content. It's just a place we have conversations. And one person asked a lot of questions. So I want to I think that it was Nikki that asked these questions. So Nikki, thank you for asking all these questions because I think they're just really common thoughts that a lot of us have in our minds and maybe we're not asking out loud. So her first question, she said, we're all dealing with online dating. So if you are dating or you're meeting people, even if you're meeting people in real life, wherever, some of these questions, or almost all of these questions, are valid. Either way. So, first, how many dates until sex is on the table? Dun, dun, dun. Okay. So, I believe... Okay, I'm gonna read all her questions first. How many dates until sex is on the table? Should you not agree to each date a guy asks you out on? Like, should you come up with a busy excuse? How should you stay cautious and not fall for the guy? How do you know whether someone is being genuine? Do phone calls mean more than texts? And how quick have you non-single women have wait, okay, I think she meant to say, how quick have you non-single women, how do I say this? She says, fallen for your significant other. How quick have you non-single women fallen for, so how quick did you fall for your significant other? Blah, 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 blah. That was a tough one. So all these are such great questions. And I'm smiling because I have asked these questions, a lot of these from a lot of the couples that I know. So first and foremost, I will tell you that I think that you need to ask every single couple that you know all of these questions. How quick did you have sex? You'd be amazed. Since I started doing this, you'd be amazed at how many couples, especially the ones that you can tell are just happy and they're just enjoying life. You don't hear them complaining about each other. They're just like doing work and going on vacation and enjoying life. And, nothing's perfect. They have maybe sick family members or they have, a disagreement with someone or their job isn't the greatest or whatever. But for the most part, they're doing pretty good. And those are the ones that often fly under our radar. But I really, really encourage you to ask them about their relationship because you're going to start to see that the advice that we get from so-called experts is not usually, and this is why I put this message out there, because I don't create a bunch of rules. And you'll notice I'll tell you that there are really no rules or there are no specific answers to these questions because I used to feel like there have to be definitive things. There should be, I must be doing something wrong and all these people must have been doing something right. But, okay, so let's start with, do phone calls mean more than texts? Okay, so I think that question it just proves how weird we have gotten, how weird online dating has made our ability to connect and build relationships. Because I think that you can say a lot with a text. I think sometimes texting can say more than a phone call because sometimes people say more via text than they do via phone. But do you even know them first? So I think a lot of times we're building the initial part of the relationship via text. And here are my thoughts on this. Like, sometimes I think that when we're texting, I don't know about you, but we can sense energy. Do you hear me on this? Like, if you've ever been texting someone and if you just look at the actual words, it doesn't really say much emotion. Like if you pass it to somebody else, they're like, I don't know. But when you are texting that in that moment, you can feel the energy that's coming across. And that's where I really feel like you can sense chemistry via text. So I don't think that it doesn't mean that there's nothing going on. However, how many times have you felt that energy? Because sometimes I think like people that are really insecure can be super comfortable via text. And so they enjoy communicating with you via text, but they are extremely shy in person, and it takes them a long time to open up. So actually, the real person is under there trying to connect with you, but in person, in real life, they can't really do it. So then you're like, what happened to the person on text? So you need it all. You need to be, because I want to be able to text the guy, my significant other. I'm a big communicator, so I want to be able to have a texting relationship. I text my mom and my sister and my friends all the time because I enjoy that communication. It's easy throughout the workday. You can keep in touch with people. But I also know their sense of humor. I also have a connection and a foundation built with them over the phone and obviously in person if it's people you've grown up with, etc. So hopefully that's not too confusing, but I absolutely believe you need to meet in person and develop an in-person bond and connection. Because if you think about what's the end goal, if the end goal is to find a spouse, then we have to know if we can communicate in person. Some people communicate really well when they're drunk, and they're great, and you can tell where their heart really is, but that person cannot make all of those things come out when they're sober. It's like that person doesn't exist. And then they get drunk. I've dated guys where I'm like, man, I really like the drunk version better. I dated one guy specifically who was fantastic when he was drunk. I mean, he was like the most fun guy. And then sober, he was the worst guy ever. And so it was just like, even my aunt who knew him, she was like, man, he's a great drunk. I'm like, isn't he though? He's fantastic drunk. But like in regular everyday life, it was just the polar opposite. So we have to be spending time getting to know people in person because this is precious time. Like I talked about in the last podcast about why I quit online dating. It's because it's taking too long. I mean, this was supposed to make it more efficient, right? Like, okay, this is how we start our online dating profiles. I don't get out very often. And so, I'm working all the time. So this gives me a way to connect, but connect with what? Text messages, pen pals. I mean, it's almost as if the online world has gone backwards and now we're writing letters to each other. We're just writing them digitally, but the in-person and connection piece is missing. And this is the most important component about a relationship is the ability to build friendship and intimacy. I have to know that I can trust you. I have to be able to look into your eyes. I have to be able to spend time with you. I have to learn that you can show up consistently, that you can make plans in advance, that I need to be able to see how you treat the waitress, how you treat your friends, and how you interact with your family. I mean, you've got to learn all of these things and see them over and over and over and over again so that you know who you've got. You know who you're falling for. Because if you're just falling for text messages, you're only getting part of the picture. So it's not that texts aren't important. It's not that phone calls are that much better, but it's just you need everything. And if the person on the other end is only giving you parts of it, then it takes too long. And if there's anything I wish I could go back and give myself is time. I wish I could go back and tell myself, don't waste time with the guys that are doing this or guys that are doing that, because the people that really are interested in building a connection and they want a partner, they're coming at you in the same speed. They have the same goal. They're like, I want to meet a partner. I want to be married. I want to have children. They're not just looking for the gumballs, the attention, the quick fixes. Those people, that's what I help you identify right away so that you can go, oh yeah, he's cute and we have chemistry, but he's just looking for short-term fixes that are going to make him feel good right now. And that's always what the gumball guy is looking for, is what makes him feel good right now. So how many dates till sex is on the table? Man, I would say wait as long as you can. My Aunt Joy wants me to tell all of you to wait until you're married. And ideally that would be in a perfect world. But she's like, why don't you tell them to wait until they're married? I'm like, because Aunt Joy, I'm talking to women of all ages and I'm not their mother. So anyway, she's raised 5 beautiful girls, and they were all very good girls and waited for marriage. God love them. I think they're incredible, but I know that is not reality for a lot of us. So let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about it for a little bit. All right. So here's my take on this. Let's just say, for Aunt Joy's sake, that you wait until marriage. What happens if you wait until marriage? You know that the guy is committed. He's at the altar. He's committing to you for life. So it takes all the risk out of having sex, right? Because he's not going to leave, because he's committing to be with you forever. So when you think about sex and you think about the risk of pregnancy, you think about the risk of diseases, or you think about the risk of, I don't know him well enough, so if you have sex with him earlier on, he could still be having sex with other women. And it's gut-wrenching. And there are scientifically nothing based on any religious beliefs, just science. When you have sex, you release bonding chemicals in your brain. Your brain goes, oh my gosh, I'm having sex. This person is now mine. And the territorial pheromones and all these chemicals are released to say, that's mine, not yours. And then you turn into a freak if anybody else attempts or wants to be with what your chemicals in your body are saying, those are mine. So it's like a territorial response, and it's the oxytocin, all those chemicals that are released. So you immediately start bonding. So I would tell you, wait as long as you can. Wait until you've seen consistent behavior over and over and over again. I want you to know who this guy is. Who is he with his family? Who is he with his friends? Have you really seen him display his character? Have you seen him when he's irritable? Have you seen him when he's super happy? Can he be happy for you? Is he willing to invest in your life and show up for you and come to events? Can he be completely selfless? This is, I know for most of my listeners, this is just normal for you. Like, you are 100% willing to go to his work Christmas party and hang out and meet his coworkers, and you're actually going to enjoy yourself because you like him and you like being around him. You'll go to his family functions. You will be happy for him if he has a work anything, or you'll help him study. You're there for him. You're a ride or die girl. And so I want you to make sure that you've got that same ride or die commitment on his end, that you've got a real partner. And if you don't know, then don't have sex. Because I believe this is true on both sides. I believe men and women are equally as emotional. Men are just socialized differently to show their emotions differently, but I have had enough relationships with men, and I'm just the kind of person that men tend to confide in sooner. And they're like, why am I I'm that person that people are like, why am I telling you all of this? And it's because I like the real stuff, and I really enjoy connecting on a deep level. And out of all these times this has happened, I've sat there and thought, man, men are just as emotional as women are. They're connecting with you, they're bonding with you, but sometimes if there are underlying issues that you haven't been able to discover yet, sex makes things feel closer. It creates a deeper level of intimacy. And so if he isn't ready for that, or that makes him feel freaked out to be more vulnerable with you, then you're running the risk of him leaving. That's why guys leave after sex. It's not because, oh my gosh, I don't like her anymore, or I was just trying to get laid. No, it's, oh, I am now fully visible. She can see me. I'm completely vulnerable, and now I have to run and hide. Real men don't need to run and hide. They feel if they're comfortable in their own skin, those guys don't have to run after sex. It's the guys that aren't comfortable with themselves, that don't want to be seen, and they are still playing games. Those are the ones that are going to hide. And so I want you to be careful about those. Okay. Next question. That was a big question. Should you agree to, or should you not agree to each date a guy asks you out on? Or should you be, quote unquote, busy? So I would say be busy anyway. And literally think of the date as a friend asking you out. Like, I dance usually Wednesdays and Fridays, and Tuesday, Thursdays, I work out, and so, that's when I'll do my coaching sessions. So my during the week is pretty busy, and so I tend to keep those days pretty scheduled. And so when I go on dates, I prefer them to be like on a Friday night or a Saturday, or maybe for a lunch, but rarely for a lunch during the week. So like literally never for a lunch during the week, but lunch maybe on a Saturday. So I want you to just kind of think like what works best for you to have a date. And but here's the thing, like, I think this is initially for first dates. Like, don't just bend over backwards and change your schedule. But if you want to spend time, I know every single couple I know, they were like, oh yeah, we were inseparable and we just kept spending time together. You're not going to chase away the guy that's comfortable in his own skin, that's really into you. The right guy is never going to get sick of you. Ever. He's going to want to be with you all the time. How do I know this? I've watched this in real life. Couple after couple after couple. They love spending time together. They're always spending time together. They're always spending time with each other's friends and each other's families. And so if you want to go out with him again and he wants to go out again, there's nothing that you should be like, don't apply a rule and think, oh, I'm going to show too much. Because for the right person, it's not going to matter. You will not scare the right person. The right person's going to be like, give me more. They can handle it. Can't you handle it? Because I can handle it. You know what I mean? Like, if I like them, I'm not going to be like, oh, yeah, I really like him, but he's just been too available to me the last couple of days. So, because there's a difference between being too available and then being needy. You know, if somebody's like clingy and needy and then they're all over you, then that is going to turn you off. But if you're both mutually into each other and you're just spending time together and you're having fun, then go with it. Life is too short to start saying, I really want to go out with him. He wants to go out with me, but I'm going to say no because I feel like it's going too fast. That's dumb. And we don't have to play those games. Okay. Her next question. How do you stay cautious and not fall for the guy? I don't know. Because I can tell you that our hearts, oh man, will go for whatever they want. And if we could okay, Gumball Love is actually me trying to manipulate the system. Now, it does work with the complete wrong guys, like red flags and this guy's doing this. Eventually, even if you fall for the wrong guy, because I just believe if you have the chemistry and it's just gonna happen. Like, it's an involuntary response. When we have chemistry with somebody and we like them, the falling for them is involuntary. You're gonna like infatuate. I think it's infatuation primarily is what's going to come in the beginning. So you stay cautious by just keeping your eyes open. Like, I have fallen for the wrong guys before since learning about, since creating Gumball Love and learning this process. Like, I've learned about intimacy and I've fallen for guys but it has lasted way less time. I can figure it out much faster. What used to take me years. So sometimes I would date a guy for, it would usually be on and off, or we'd go back and forth. But my first Gumball guys, they were longer term relationships because I didn't see the signs. And so I was like on the roller coaster ride, not understanding what was happening to me. So now that you have this concept and you have this awareness of what's actually going on, and you can see he wants attention versus connection. He's not really paying attention to me. He's paying attention to me being into him. Like, that's how you can be cautious. But if everything's going good and you're not getting any red flags, I really think it's detrimental to try to control how fast you're falling. Because can you really control it? I don't feel like you can. I think if he's into you and you're into him, there's a point where you just have to let go. And there is a risk that he could turn out to be the wrong guy. I mean, I still am surprised by people sometimes. I can know people for months and months and think they're great, but if you haven't really spent time with them on a deeper level, you still don't know. And some people are really good at hiding this stuff. So it takes time. And so there's always going to be a little bit of a risk. There's nobody that's a guarantee you're never going to get hurt by this person. So I think that the girls like us that have had this pattern, we are always going to be at risk for falling for another gumball guy because they come in all these different packages. They seek attention in different ways, but eventually, like sometimes they're a totally different type of person. Like you could have fallen for all white collar guys and then all of a sudden you're dating somebody that's blue collar and just feels like totally different lifestyle. Or maybe you dated corporate guys and now you're dating an artist, or you used to date all artists and now you're dating a corporate guy and it just feels really different to you. But then you're like, at the end, you go, oh my gosh, another gumball guy. I wouldn't have expected that. Or they come to you in a way that you feel like you can trust them. Maybe I've been introduced to people by friends and family members, and they thought that the guy was great because they didn't really know, or they had always had good relationships. So they aren't really wired to think like, they're not really wired to look for these signs. They just take people at face value, and they got lucky maybe early in their dating, or they married their high school sweetheart or whatever. So sometimes when you're introduced to people in a way that makes you feel comfortable and you kind of give them a default amount of trust, it can shock you. So I just think that there's always an element of risk, but if we're constantly walking around at each relationship like a detective and looking for clues, I hate when people do that to me. I've dated guys where they're like, oh, I've just been screwed over by every girl. And so they're like always skeptical of things that you're doing. And when you are not a dishonest person and you have no motives and you're literally just trying to get to know them and they're doing that, it makes you feel like they don't trust you. And it's not that they don't trust you, it's just that they have been burned in the past, but they're kind of transferring that experience to you, and it's really not fair. So I think that gumball love and this whole concept can give you usually a lot of these signs are pretty evident in the very beginning. But there comes a point where sometimes the gumball person is a little bit more subtle, or their issues aren't as severe, or they're just not as blatant. They're high functioning gumball people. But then all of a sudden you start to see, oh, you do want the attention. And I see it over here and I see it over here, where sometimes like they don't necessarily talk about themselves a lot, but they aren't really asking questions about other people either. They're not really building deeper relationships, or you thought they had more relationships, but then as you get to know them, you're like, oh, they're really not friends, or there's a million different circumstances, and that's not what I want to get into on this podcast, but you can kind of get what I'm saying, that there's only so much you can do. There's only so many red flags you can look for. But if you are feeling comfortable and you are having a good time and you're feeling like, okay, he's listening to me, he's showing up, he's being consistent, I really like him, I'm laughing. Bottom line is, if you're having fun, my sister would say that so many times. Like, I would say, when do you think it's over? And she would say, when the fun stops. And I would kind of laugh like, oh, haha, but it's really true, because usually when it's not fun anymore, that's when we start seeing the red flags, or we start feeling bad and we're trying to justify behavior. So, all right. How do you know, next question, how do you know whether someone is being genuine? You don't. I mean, it kind of gets back to what I've been saying. You can only overanalyze it so much, and then you have to just trust. And I look at it this way, I've been burned by people before, And I survived, because now when someone burns me, I don't think, oh, what's wrong with me? I feel sorry for them, because how sad that they're manipulating people for their own benefit. And I also feel sad because they're not really getting the benefits of a real connection, that they're trying to control. Someone who burns you or uses you is trying to control or manipulate the situation because they are afraid. They're afraid to be vulnerable. So really, when someone burns me, it's like, oh, you tried, but you were too afraid to actually really have a relationship and really be open, because you don't want people to see you, because you're afraid if they see you, they're going to judge you or reject you. And so you used or manipulated a situation for your own personal benefit. And in the end, they don't really benefit, because my best friends are the ones that know all the ugly stuff about me and all the great stuff. And they accept me for who I am. And when I pick up the phone and call or we hang out, it's the most liberating feeling ever, because I just don't have to be anybody else but me. And, I even had to realize that in these podcasts and delivering content. If you followed me way back when I first started on Periscope, I was being myself, but there was still it's like you're being yourself, but you're also feeling really insecure, and you're like, I don't know, should I say this or should I say that? And then every time a troll would make a comment, it would make me second guess myself. And there was a lot of self-doubt. And then there was this whole other phase with Snapchat where it was like, okay, what am I going to say and how am I going to say it? And as I've grown and I've connected with you, so many of you, we have these amazing messages offline and direct message. The most beautiful part of what I do is in my direct messages and hearing your personal stories, some that I can't share. Most I cannot share. If you send me a generic enough message where I know that if anyone read it, they would never know it was you, then sometimes I'll post it just because I want to inspire and show people like what's going on behind the scenes, and especially new people that are just joining and they're like, what is Gumball Love and what can this really do for me? I don't want to lose people because maybe I had a boring week on Instagram and they're like, okay, peace out. This account sucks, but I want them to see how this can really work. And so I had to realize that I couldn't be everything for everybody, and that you love me for who I am, and that I can just turn on this microphone and talk to you and answer questions and build a relationship with you, because really and truly, you may just be hearing me through earbuds, but I know so many of you personally, and I've worked with so many of you, and we direct message and you share your stories. And so it's like we are talking directly to each other, and it means so much to me. And so there came a point where I had to just let go. And I shouldn't say there came a point where all of a sudden I let go and I was completely myself, but it's been a lot of, maybe if I think of like 20 strings I was hanging on to, I've just been letting go one at a time. And sometimes I didn't even realize what I was still hanging on to. And I probably still, I know I still have insecurities. I was telling my friend Elaine, just a year ago, I was terrified to take pictures for my branded photo shoot because I was overweight. I didn't know what to wear. I was intimidated by having my pictures taken. I didn't know how to pose. I didn't know what to do. That was not even a year ago. And then after that, actually, I had already started dancing and then lost the weight and just stuff I had to do in dancing and performing and being on stage and doing a competition. I did 2 mini competitions in the studio, 1 huge competition in Jersey City, 1 big performance on a stage on Broadway. It just forced me to get comfortable in my own skin. And it was in a different way other than being here with you guys. And so it just made me feel more comfortable connecting with you as just totally me. And I'm telling you this because I think that when we're on dates or when we're going on dates, we have to look at ourselves and say, who am I bringing on the date? You know what? I'll do a whole nother podcast on this. Who am I bringing on the date? Because it's really important that we're not bringing an imposter version of ourselves, because then we're also not bringing the ability to connect. So, all right, let me see if I have any more questions. Okay. How many dates till sex? Should you stay cautious? How quick have you fallen for your significant other? I always feel like these couples that I know, they fall, or they knew so soon. They knew, they had the feeling like this is different. And I know that for those of us that have dated gumball guys, we have felt that feeling with different guys, and we were like, oh my gosh, this feels different. However, I really believe that there's a different kind of knowing. There's a difference between being excited and feeling attracted and infatuated, and then knowing there's this deep, meaningful connection that is completely different than anything you've had before. So I took a poll in the private Facebook group recently of all of the couples, and just in the first few hours, I had 9 couples. I printed out your pictures, so if you're one of those couples, I'm just like waiting on engagements now. I can't even believe it. This really started on Snapchat. Like, I really started pushing this content out about 3 years ago, on a daily basis, being very consistent every single day. And, just to know that there are, within the first few hours, or 9 couples just messaging me selfies. I'm like, can you send me a selfie? And I printed out 9 couples and thought, oh my gosh, and I need to keep asking, because not everybody's in the private Facebook group. So I don't even know how many couples, but I was like, I really need to start paying attention to this, because that's incredible. And also, if you can send me a selfie on any social media platform, or melissa@gumballove.com, if you broke up with your gumball guy, or if you found a relationship, or you broke up with your gumball guy, or you feel like you can be happily single, if you had a major moment, I'm creating this vision board of all of your pictures, because that really makes it real for me. Because, I'm a person too, and this is a journey for me. I'm still on my life journey. I'm nowhere perfect. I haven't arrived. I still make mistakes. I've had, even over the past 3 years, 4 years, 4.5 years, I lived in New York. I've dated probably about 3 guys where I had to go through the process of realizing they were a gumball guy, and then developing feelings, and then dealing with those feelings. And I would think my own content would get me out of it. And I was just thinking, wow, especially one where I really crossed a line just emotionally. And I was like, I'm feeling way too much for this person than I want to feel. And I listened to my own dang podcast, and I was like, I hate myself right now, because I didn't want to hear what I had to say. When the feelings are there and it's real, and you want that person to be the one and they're not, I was like, wow, I see how hard this is to hear it when your heart kind of goes overboard, and you think you found that unicorn, and then he ends up being like the villain. And so this has been just such an amazing journey and process. And so I think that I want to say thank you for hanging with me, 1. And 2, I'm sorry for feeling like I have to be perfect, because sometimes I've gone a little quiet when I haven't felt like I'm at my best, or that I'm making my own mistakes. And that's dumb, because I need to just stay with you, because I want you to stay with me. I don't care if you've gone back to your gumball guy for the 10th time. I get it. And so I put pressure on myself to lead by example, but I've also had a tremendous amount of dysfunction in my past, and I've done a lot of therapy and a lot of work on myself. But sometimes the right person can get your attention at the wrong time, and it can throw you for a while. But what I am most thankful for is it only throws me for a while. It doesn't throw me for a year, or even 6 months, or even 3 months. Usually I can get it figured out within a few weeks, depending on how long I've spent around the person. And I also know when I'm ready to walk away, that I don't have to beat myself up. I can see that their issues, I can see my issues, and it doesn't turn into what's wrong with me? Why am I not enough? I don't ask those questions anymore. I think I fell for another attention addict. Why did I fall for him? What was it about him? What was different? And then I just accumulate the information and I keep going, because I know ultimately I will meet the right person. And this is where I have to stay in faith, just like I tell you to. And I'm so happy that so many of you are meeting your significant others, these great guys that you have seen your worth and you know your value, and you're meeting guys that are seeing that, and you're seeing the difference and what it's like to be valued and respected and get consistent behavior, and guys that show up to, I'm thinking about an example where I just see this guy with her at all her, he's out with her friends, she's out with his friends, they've gone on vacation, they've gone to weddings together. There's just happiness. It's just easy, because people that aren't selfish and attention seeking, they're just relaxed. They're like, yeah, I'll go to a wedding. Sure, whatever. If it's boring for a while, they're fine. It's not that big of a deal, because they're not an addict. So they don't need a fix. So they're calm, and they're so easy to please, because they understand this is what you do in life. You go to weddings and birthday parties and company parties, and you hang out and have boring nights at home, but they're really not that boring, because, you're not really bored in life when you're just enjoying the small things, and you're enjoying what you do for your work, and you're engaged, and you're connected, and you have friends and community, and you're giving back, and you have causes that are important to you. When you fill up your life, you're not bored. And when you find somebody else that's also doing that, it changes everything. So I'm going to do 2 more podcasts that I thought about this, thought through this, of who are you bringing on your date? And then also I'm going to really start working on what we can be doing in our everyday lives that can bring us into finding and meeting people, men and women, that we can connect with, that are more like, I was telling a friend that online dating is sort of like the ocean. Everybody's in there. But what if you could fish in a smaller pond that was exactly the kind of people that think the same way you do? Maybe I never allow politics or religion to be discussed on my platforms because it's too divisive. However, in those 2 areas, if you go hang out with people that agree with you and are passionate about issues, like you could take any issue. It doesn't even necessarily mean you have to be Republican or Democrat or fighting for any issues. It could just be one specific thing that is important to you. And then you go to an event, and then you find somebody else that's also supports that. Or like if you believe in rescuing dogs and cats, or like an ASPCA type of organization, you can go and volunteer, and you're going to meet a guy. Like I love meeting men that love dogs. Like when I meet a guy who doesn't love dogs and can't have a dog lick him on the face, I'm just like, what is wrong with you? For me, that's just like, they're like, ew, how can you let your dog lick you on the face? I'm like, I've had this dog since she was 8 weeks old. Like, I would share my ice cream cone with her. I don't care. And so I'm going to meet that kind of guy if I go to something that's focused on animals, right? And so if you want somebody that's focused in art, go to where there's art. Go look at artists that have their work on display. I mean, it's sort of like, duh, why didn't I think of this sooner? And it's not that I wasn't thinking of it, but I think online dating sort of provided this false sense of convenience. Like, oh, well, I can just open this app and find these people. But it's just been overcome with trolls and the filtering. Like, I don't want to tell you to filter like a freak anymore, because that's too much work. Filter, 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 filter. You shouldn't have to be we should not be in places or going to ponds or oceans where we have to be filtering that much. We shouldn't be thinking about filtering. We should be actually able to be fully present at events and enjoying our life and connecting with like-minded people, whether those are women or men, because I don't want us going to these events thinking about who we're going to meet. I want us going to these events because you're like, I'll just give you an example. Like ever since the movie Ghost, I've always wanted to do pottery on the potting wheel. Like, for how long has that movie been out? Like over 20 years. Have I done it yet? No. So stupid. Like I've thought about it and thought about it and kind of like how I thought about dancing for 9 years. I thought about dancing. And now that I'm dancing, I'm like, this is why you thought about it all the time, because you love it. It's just something I really enjoy. So why have I not done pottery? That's just one thing. I want to take a class. And so are there hot guys hanging out at pottery places? Probably not. But it's where I want to go. And so I love wildlife rescue. And so that's another thing where I'm like, I'm just going to go and maybe see if I can volunteer for one day at the wildlife rescue on the Upper West Side. Plus, I need to get I live in New York City. And especially right now, I've been in the city for like a long time. I haven't had a break from Manhattan. And I'm really feeling like, if you just heard the siren go by, it's just like a lot of noise. And for the first time in a long time, it's gotten to me and I just need to get out. So where can I get out? What can I do when I get out? And so if we start just thinking about what do I need? What do I like? What do I connect with? What am I passionate about? What causes or issues really light me up? Go to things that you're going to be excited. If you read, go find an author that's doing a book signing. Being around celebrities that you really look up to, those are high vibe events because those are high achieving people. They publish books. They're on their book tour. It's at the height or pinnacle of their success. And so it's just a different kind of event to go to. And then you're going to be around other people that like that author, like reading that material. And so these are target rich environments with people you can network with, new friends that you can make. And a lot of people ask me, how can I make new friends? And I will tell you that just creating Gumball Love and pursuing this as my passion, it put me at 4 business conferences where I met a ton of friends that I talk to all the time. That's where I really started to make a difference. I said, I need to move to New York. So my whole environment changed. Then I started going to business conferences. Again, my whole environment changed. Then I started following people on social media that I never would have followed before. So then all of a sudden I had all these virtual friends, and then I met some of those virtual friends in real life, and then they became my actual friends. And so my whole world changed because I pursued just this passion. I have this idea about these gumball guys and I want to tell women about it. And so I started doing that. And a lot of my efforts, especially in the last almost 5 years, have been focused on just helping you. It's sort of like occupational hazard. I've been focused on this concept more than I was focused on dating myself, but I was still working on myself even though I was developing this concept. And still, it's never ending. I'm still working on my weight loss. I did lose 40 pounds, which I just still can't believe the number is at 40 pounds. But every day, I've changed my lifestyle. So I just noticed I just keep losing little by little because I followed my instincts. I just was like, I don't want to eat meat anymore. I just feel grossed out by it. Do I have to eat meat? I felt like a weirdo. Like, am I going to be one of those vegan people? Yeah, I kind of am. I'm not completely vegan. I still have some cheese or yogurt occasionally, but I'm pretty dang close. Like, I haven't eaten meat in almost a solid year. And so it's just what feels good to me. Like, if I think about eating meat, I don't want it. And as a girl that grew up in Nebraska and corn-fed and beef my whole life, it just seems odd. It seems odd if I think about it, but when I just ask myself how I feel and what I want to do, that's what feels natural and normal to me. If I would have asked anybody in Nebraska, do you think I should move to New York and become a vegan? I can't even say it with a straight face. People would be like, what is wrong with you? Like, they would have thought I was crazy. And I didn't, obviously it wasn't like that quick of a decision, or those decisions didn't all come together. But you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, life is weird. It's crazy, but here we are in the process. And one thing that I want to share with you that will completely help you to get out of this feeling of being like sad about being single or being sad about this whole process or being frustrated. Like, whenever my mind goes to that place, I always just think like, I'm alive. No one is dying. If you've ever gone through someone dying in your family or if someone's passed away, it's awful. Or if you've lost a pet. I mean, if that stuff isn't going on in your life right now and you are at a place where really your only concern is being single and maybe you wish you had more money and you wish you were skinnier. Isn't that right? We wish we were skinnier, we had more money, and that we had this great relationship. And so if those are the only things that are really a huge deal, maybe you have some debt, maybe you don't love your job, maybe you haven't quite found your passion, but you have food, you have water, you have a hot shower, you have a roof over your head. You can like watch anything you want on TV. You can watch Netflix. You can go get a Starbucks coffee. I mean, our lives are so fortunate. We live like kings. I mean, they say like we now in our everyday lives as average Americans live better than kings and queens. We look back and think they have this extravagant lifestyle, but really they don't. And even if you think of actual royalty in Buckingham Palace, I mean, yeah, it might be a really nice house, but I mean, they still have the same TV you do. You can probably drink and eat about the same stuff that they're eating and drinking. You could get the recipes. You know what I mean? Like, what do they really have that you don't? I mean, yes, it's a big fancy castle, but it's like that stuff gets old. It's just stuff. It's just stuff. And even look at, Meghan and Kate, they had to give up a lot of freedom to have that lifestyle. I mean, they can't say anything. They can't be political. She had to give up her career as an actress. Like, you know, to me, I'm like, I don't know. I just feel like it's giving up too much stuff. Like if I fell in love with a prince, I'd have to never talk about Gumball Love again. I would just have to quiet my voice and wave like a princess. And after you ride off in that carriage, like Cinderella, what's after that? I mean, this is just how my mind works. Like, I don't see, unless I had different plans or, you know, whatever. I don't know what her plans are, but I'm just saying for us looking at that, don't fantasize about it too much or overly think like, oh, that's got to be the best of the best, because you may hate it. And what your life is for you, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. And even if you've made mistakes, even if you're with your gumball guy right now, even if he's texting you while you're listening to this and you're feeling guilty, don't. I say this. Wherever you are, just look at it with eyes wide open. When my friend was helping me through my more recent guy issue, she was like, you went through that with your eyes wide open and you saw it all the way through. And even though your emotions got caught up in it, you were still completely aware and you had your full, like, I was able to just talk myself through it. And that's something I wasn't able to do before I knew about Gumball Love. I was analyzing the guy, analyzing our situation, not analyzing the reality versus what I wanted it to be. And then ultimately making a decision of, okay, this isn't the right person, and then being able to walk away. That's a totally different scenario. So if you hear my voice and you're with a gumball guy, do not feel guilty, because you're already way further along in the process, because now you're gaining clarity in the situation. So sometimes I told this one client, I love her to death. I wish I could tell you who she is, but she was with this guy and I could tell there was no way she was going to leave him. And she was like, Melissa, what do I do? And I was like, stay with him. She goes, what? I'm like, get back in there. Get back in there. And she's like, I can't believe you're saying that. I'm like, you're not going to leave anyway. So why would I tell you to leave? There's no way you're walking away from him. I said, so get fully back in there and just observe it. She just stared at me. We were doing this via Skype. She's sitting in her car. She was like, Melissa Ledger, Gumball Love, is telling me to go back and date my gumball guy. I was like, oh yeah. Because when you're having a hard time walking away and you're just like, it's just agony, you need more information. Sometimes you just need to see it a little bit more. You need to see him. So you don't tell him what you're doing. Don't say, I'm going to just see what you do. No, you just play along and you get back in there. And then it takes away that forbidden fruit. And then you're like, oh, okay. Yeah, I see it now. And if you feel like you see it, yet you still can't move away from him, when you're with him, just write it down. Allow the experience to teach you instead of beating yourself up about, I should walk away. What am I going to do? Ask yourself, what am I getting out of this? What is he giving me that is so hard to walk away from? Why is this so much agony for me? And for me, I just write it out and write it out and write it out and write it out. And when I go back and I look at those journal entries and I see the whole process, it's like, I know that I'll never make that mistake in that way again. So in some ways, in the moment, it feels like, oh, I'm such a loser. Why am I doing this? But then when I get on the other side, you realize, wow, I overcame it. I got through it. It was a challenge. And here's the other side of it. It's like when your heart gets caught up and you are struggling, it means your heart is open. And it means that you are willing to love. And if it happens to fall on the wrong person for a period of time and you have to go through something, it's okay. I mean, if I could just give you a little bit of like, just breathe. If you fell for the wrong person because you had an open heart and you saw their heart and you saw their vulnerability, and some of these gumball guys are so sweet and they do have so many great qualities. They're just really messed up. And when they get messed up, that's when they start taking advantage, and that's when they start playing games and they show ugly sides. But within all the ugly, you saw some beauty and you fell in love with that because you didn't have all the information. So that's why I say sometimes you need to go back and gather more information and observe him and observe yourself, because sometimes fighting it really hard, unless you're getting like physically abused. I wouldn't, obviously if really bad things are happening, then sometimes you have to just push through it. But if it's just one of those, I'm going back and forth and he calls and he texts, it's just like you really like him or you fell in love with him, but he might be cheating on you, or he's not consistent, or sometimes he calls and sometimes he doesn't. And when he does call, it's so great. But when he doesn't, it's agony. Those types of situations, just keep your eyes open. Don't isolate yourself. Keep listening to podcasts like this. Book a one-on-one session with me, or you can book a group of 3 or 6. I've had people book 6 sessions so they can spread them out over every week or every couple of weeks where they know they're going to sit down and talk to me. And it's not for me to be like, have you done what you're supposed to do yet? No, it's more like, let's just build a support system. So if you're still not walking away, that's okay. I understand. Trust me. I get it. So we'll just talk about, or you talk about it with your friend, or you write it down if you can't afford a session, whatever. Just we'll talk about what's going on. What's making you stay? What makes you want to leave? What are you getting out of it? What is he getting out of it? And when you talk about your specific situation and the actual dynamics that are happening, it helps so much to really get clarity. And then one day, you're just going to see it. And once you see it, you can't go back. It's like the romance bubble pops, and then they can never create that excitement again, because once you're clear, and this is what I pray for all the time. If I'm ever with a guy that I know I shouldn't be with, I always pray, God, please show me reality. Please show me clarity. Because often we get very clouded in our judgment and we're not really seeing what's actually going on. We're seeing what we want to be there. We're projecting the fantasy over the reality. And so it's sort of giving it that rose-colored look. And once we see real, clear reality, that's when the light bulb goes on and it's so much easier to make a better decision. So that was a lot of stuff in the Q&A segment, but I'm very thankful for Nikki for asking all of these questions in the private Facebook group, because I was going to answer them and I thought, you know what, I'll just do it in a podcast and get it uploaded. So I hope this helped you and in your journey. I love hearing back from you guys and your posts in the private Facebook group. If you feel like it's too private, you can always direct message me. You can send me an email, melissa@gumballove.com. So that is it for today. Thank you so much for tuning in and for your dedication to Gumball Love and for all of your comments, for your reviews. If you've left me a review, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It helps the growth of this podcast so much. So if you've gained clarity, if you can give it a review and type just a few comments, I would really, really appreciate it. And don't forget to subscribe so that you are aware when new episodes come out. All right. Until next time, I will talk to you soon. Bye for now.